So this week's parsha is Parshas Vo'ez Chanan, and in Vo'ez Chanan we have a fascinating pasuk. Pasuk says in Parshas Vo'ez Chanan, here you go. So let's look inside on the first page here, which is a pasuk brought down in Devarim Perek Vav, pasuk Yud Ches. The pasuk says, "V'asisa hayosher ve'atoiv ve'inei Hashem." It says you should do yosher and toiv in the eyes of Hashem. Now, how would you teach the pasuk? You should do yosher and toiv. What does it mean, yosher and toiv?
Be straight and good.
Straight and good. So what does that mean? We have to go a little deeper.
Do the right thing.
Oh, you should do right. What's right? So let's say
straight means not to stray off the path.
Oh, you should do right. So that means if there's a question, a person shouldn't steal. You shouldn't steal. You should make sure he doesn't do anything wrong. So now let's see Rashi. First we have Rashi here. Rashi is right there under the pasuk. The pasuk says "V'asisa yoshev hatoiv," but look at the next words. Next words that Rashi says. Rashi says "Hayosher ve'hatoiv," right under the pasuk. Zu pshara lifnim mishuras hadin. Right? You see these little words here. Here's the pasuk, and Rashi right underneath says, no, Yasher and Toiv means that you should do extra. Lifnei Mishuras Hadin. So it's an interesting thing that Rashi comes out. Rashi's not telling you to do the letter of the law, he's telling you to do extra. He's telling you to do extra. Now, we're going to see an interesting thing. We found this in the Churban Beis HaMikdash, that one of the reasons that Yerushalayim was destroyed was because they went by the letter of the law. Right? If you'll actually look a little ahead, we have that Gemara brought down on the third page. You'll see number 16, which is brought down. It's just brought down by a Mordechai, but he mentions this Gemara in passing. You see number 16. It's a Mordechai and Bava Metzia. Right on the bottom there. Is that it? Is that number 16? Mm-hmm. So right 4 lines from the bottom it says, right, Ve'omer Rabbi Yochanan in the middle of the line, and there it says Ve'omer Rabbi Yochanan L'necher v'Yerushalayim el b'shvil. The reason why Yerushalayim was destroyed was because she'amidu divreim al din Torah, because they put the din on the letter of the law. The din, exactly what it was. That's what they said you have to do. So that's all they did. They did the letter of the law. So he says, and they didn't do Lifnei Mishuras Hadin. He's just quoting a Gemara, but that's an interesting thing. That's what they bring down, one of the causes for the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. So let's go a little further. Let's look back at page number 1, and let's see how the Ramban explains. The Ramban also, right underneath there, explains what is the concept of Lifnei Mishuras Hadin. So we're going to start al derech the second paragraph in the in number 1 on that Yud Ches. So you take a look, right? Everyone over here. This is the Ramban. The second paragraph it says Ol Rabbi Seinu. You got it? So he says Ol Rabbi Seinu. Our rabbis said over here a medrash yafa, an interesting medrash. Amru Zub Shara. This is pshara. Pshara means to make a compromise, to decide where you could be in the middle. That's what the pasuk is coming to tell you about Sisa Yoshev Atoy. Like Rashi said. And then he explains, what does this mean, to do pshara, to do Lifnei Mishuras Hadin? So he says, Ki mitchila omar shetishmar chukaisa ve'edaisa. The first pasuk before that said you should watch the chukim, you should watch all the statutes and all the mitzvahs, asher tzivcha, which I've commanded you. V'ata, now it said, let's go a little further. You look up this pasuk later, right? We're quoting this pasuk in Devarim Perek Vav, pasuk Yud Ches. But in pasuk Yud Zayin it said to watch all the mitzvahs. In Yud Zayin it said to watch the mitzvahs and the eidos. In pasuk Yud Ches he says go further. Do the Lifnei Mishuras Hadin. V'ata yomer, now he said gam kasher lo tzivcha, even what I have not commanded you, kein daitcha, you should pay careful attention, la'asos hatoiv, to do the good, v'hayashar ve'inav, to do the good that in Hashem's eyes. Ki hu ayev hatoy v'yasher. Why should you do this good, this extra? Because Hashem loves when people do good and straight, and that means to do even a little extra. So therefore, that's the idea. Since Hashem loves it, you should try to also do extra. That's the order of the psukim. Now he explains what is the whole idea. So he says, Zeh inyan gadol. This is a big idea. It's a big topic. It's a big inyan to try to fulfill. The Torah cannot mention kol hanahagois ha'adam im shcheina v'reach. The Torah can't tell you every minute law how to act with your neighbor or with your friends, right? V'reach, of your friends. V'chol masoi umatanoi, and every type of business dealing, because the Torah, right? It gives you rules. It can't give you every exact case. In your case, what type of business you have, and it's hard to plug in. But the Torah can give you the rules. I can't tell you all the mata, and all the businesses, v'tikkunei hayishuv, and all the ways to settle have a settlement, have everyone settled, and have a land, and all the business, all the houses, how to do it. All these are a lot of rules, a lot of minute technical dealings. So the Torah could tell you a few, or even a lot, as he says. It says, it says you shouldn't speak lashon hara. It says, don't do nakama. Don't bear a grudge. Don't stand by while your friend is drowning or anyone's getting hurt. You have to step up. You have a mitzvah say, a loisa say, don't stand by while your friend is getting hurt. You have to help him out. Don't curse someone. For an elder person, you should stand. So the Torah gives us a lot of guidelines, but he can't give you everyone. It's then right, it's like you have a rule book, in baseball. You go more and more rules, every minute detail, what happens. But those are rules. So here too, you can't, but you have to apply it. What will be in this business, and what about we have a partnership like this, and this percentage, and I'm there, this amount. There are so many factors to take into account, technical details that you have to apply it by yourself. Okay, all these types of. So therefore, because the Torah can't tell you all this, so Chazer Laimar b'derech Yishara. B'derech klal. The Torah wrote a derech klal. Torah gave you a general guideline. That's the way to do it. You give it one general guideline. Torah said, do toiv and yashar. Do the extra, even a little bit beyond the letter of the law. Until you get to being a little bit, giving in a little bit. You go a little bit past the letter of the law. Okay, going, and he gives a few examples. He gives an example of the Dina de Bar Metzra. The Dina of Bar Metzra. Bar Metzra is an example of one case where, let's say, someone has a field. I have a field, let's say, right over here. And my friend has a field right here. And then, let's say, I have another field here. So let's say this man wants to sell his field, the one in the middle, so he could offer it to anyone. But let's say I want to buy the field also. So the rule is I have first dibs to want to buy this. Or even if I didn't have another field, let's say just I had one field and Pliny had this field, Almighty had this field, right? So on and so forth. But when the neighboring field to me goes up for sale, I have first dibs to buy that field. Why? Why should I have first chance? Now, it's an equal opportunity right, for everyone to buy. There are fields that are still being sold and bought. So why should I be able to tell, let's say, Pliny who comes to buy this field, I could say, no, I'm buying this field. Right? He came first. So am I allowed to kick him off and say, no, I'm buying it? You buy the field over there. What would be the first thought on such a case?
Well, who's selling it?
Let's say I'm Ruvain and Shimon has a field here, and Shimon's selling his field. And Levi comes, Levi says, I want to buy the field. So I say, Levi, you could buy that field. That field's also up for sale.
Why can't it just be the guy who pays the most money?
But no, so the story is they both are paying equal amounts. They're both giving an equal bid.
Right of first refusal.
It's nicer.
I don't know why the guy beside would have an advantage.
Because he already has a field beside him. He's already got a field beside him. So he has a vested interest in that area.
Oh, so here we go. We have a beautiful shot, Mr. Snarch. Right? You agree with him? You hear? That the din is that if I have one field and he has another field, right? Now Shimon wants to sell this field, so in the din of Bar Metzra, so I have first dibs to buy this because I want to have next to it. I don't want to have one field here and one field here, and then I'm going to do my gardening.
Why is just the fact that you want to have next to it? Why does that entitle you to that?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because if not, then I'm going to have to do my lawn mowing. I'm going to go here, do my lawn mowing. Then I'm going to have to pack it up in the truck, go 2 blocks, and then lawn mow that field.
If I'm offering you more money,
no,
are you
it's
selling?
equal. They're both the
you're not the
equal money.
Okay, you're the one buying.
Actually, you have to say
you're the buyer, right?
Yeah.
Well, you won't have to do that because if you don't buy that land, you sell it to someone else. You're still going to have your one plot.
No, I have one, but I want to get 2.
Oh, you've already determined you're going to buy 2.
I already own this one, and I want to buy a second one. The question is, can I buy this and say you go to this one, or do I have to myself go to that one? So the idea is that it's not so good. It's not for my best interest to have 2 fields split, right? So you look. Rashi brings down this din. It's called Bar Metzra. Rashi says this idea.
Okay, so
yeah.
What if the guy doesn't like it? Like, what if one guy beside him doesn't like his neighbor?
What? I'm Ruvain and he's Shimon, and now he's buying it, and he's selling it, and Levi wants to buy it.
Yeah.
So
well, what if the guy doesn't want to sell it to his neighbor because they're not friends? You know what I mean? It can happen, you know?
So that would be an interesting...
Reuben would rather have Levi as his neighbor than Shimon.
What he's moving away. This guy's moving away. That would be the reason he's moving away. But the question is a good question because the Gemara speaks about this is all by buying. But let's say Hefker. Let's say Shimon wants to make this field Hefker. So now is a little bit like you're saying. Can I say to someone else, I want this field because I want to be it's my neighboring field. So here, where it's an opportunity for someone to get free land, so there I can't push him away. It's only when it's going to be we're both paying the same amount of money. The Gemara Bava Metzia, Daf Kuf Ches, the Gemara says there has to be a certain prerequisites for the case. Yeah.
Well, let's say Shimon's here and he has this field, and that's you, and Shimon doesn't like you, so he wants to sell this piece, but he certainly doesn't want to sell it to you. He wants to get rid of you, so he's going to sell it to Levi, and actually Shimon may like this field here, so he doesn't want Levi to buy this one, he wants Levi to buy this one.
Right. So it could be if he has
so what you're saying
interest.
Is Bar Metzra is an implicit agreement among all neighbors that they'll give their neighbor right of first refusal.
Well, now the question is, who made this agreement? So
it could be built into the
where the Torah doesn't say it, you're not going to find me a pasuk that says Bar Metzra.
Gemara.
What?
The Gemara in Bava Metzia.
Oh, so where did the Gemara Bava Metzia get it from? Where did the Gemara Bava Metzia get it from? So the Ramban says that it's from this pasuk here, because the pasuk says V'alsisa Yashav Atayv. V'alsisa Yashav Atayv says that you should do extra, and one example of extra. Really, on the letter of the law, Levi came first here. Levi offered the same amount of money, but he offered it first. So Levi should really get this middle field.
Who's selling? Reuven?
Let's say Reuven's selling.
Right.
And I want to buy.
Shimon is the Bar Metzra. He's right adjacent to the property.
Right.
So, and they're both offering equal. Reuven has to sell to Shimon. He can't sell to Levi.
Right. Now, even though Levi came first and offered the same amount of money, they were both offering the same amount of money, but Levi was first.
It's Lifnei Mishras a din for Reuven, or it's an act of chesed for Reuven to sell to Shimon because
Shimon's not Reuven.
Well, Reuven's the vendor because Shimon benefits from that land more than Levi does.
Oh, there's an act of chesed. Now, would you say that by every act of chesed? Right? Like, let's say I need a chesed. I need a chesed. I'll tell you what, I really need 2 bottles of milk. An act of chesed. You have to go buy me. You can't force someone to do an act of chesed usually. Right? Usually, I can't force you to buy me 2 bottles of milk, even though I really need it.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
No, I can see it as an act of chesed because if he didn't sell it to his neighbor and the neighbor was forced to buy somewhere further away, now you're adding tremendous burden to him.
Right.
To try to manage that piece of property that's further away.
Right. It is hard.
And also, it's probably less of a burden on other neighbors because if I just looked today while I was out in the country driving, all this farm equipment's out in the road going from one field to another. And
so it is a chesed.
But it's not a chesed because it could be mutual. It could be that if Reuben was in a similar position, he'd do the same for Shimon. If it's implicit, there's consideration for it and it's mutual.
You want to say it's a mutual binding agreement, and therefore.
Well, what other way why could bar mitzvah apply to one person, not another person?
No, so it applies to everyone.
Right. So it's got to be implicit that you're going to do this for me, and I'm going to do it for you.
But
let's say
when we move in there. Let's say when we move in,
right?
I say I don't want to have this agreement. I don't want to do the bar mitzvah. As we both buy the plots as they're built, I put in and I tell the guy who sells it, I don't want to do bar mitzvah with you. I'm not doing any implicit agreements. Then what happens? Then Shimon says, okay, I want to sell my land. What would you say in that case?
I say if they agreed before not to be equally not to be bound by bar mitzvah, then why shouldn't their agreement govern?
The answer is because it's not determined by your agreement. It's not
written by the Torah.
It's a Torah. The Torah wrote the rule, the klal, because the Torah can't give you every detail, minute detail, how to act out your life. And in that rule was Vasisa Yoshev Atoif. And in that, the Chachamim have determined that this is the ultimate chesed. It's a beautiful chesed of Lefnim Meshur Sadin.
It may not be a chesed for you. You may agree with Reuben and Shimon may agree that each don't want this because it's not a chesed. So
if you both agree, but there still is a Torah rule.
You can't enter into an agreement with someone else that contravenes the law of the land.
But you can contract out of the law of the land. So it has to be mutual, obviously. It has to be that they both contract out of the benefits that each one would otherwise have were it not for the fact that they contracted out. So it can be implicit unless explicitly.
You want to know if you make a tonight. Maybe if they make a stipulation that they don't want to do bar mitzvah, maybe then you wouldn't have bar mitzvah. Maybe. If you make a stipulation,
that's all I would
that
say.
you'd have to know. But let's say they don't make any stipulation,
then for sure,
and they don't think.
Then the norm that the Torah is the higher standard of the Torah should apply.
Okay. So on this, the Torah came and said that since this is a beautiful idea of chesed and lefnim meshur sadin, therefore we could force you. We're going to see how strong it is, but we could either force you or we'll tell you that you should sell it to him first in order to do this lefnim meshur sadin.
Is it a lav if you know?
It won't be a lav, but what will it be here? So we have this pasuk here. The pasuk says Vasisa Yoshev Atoif. The Rabban is saying it goes into Vasisa Yoshev Atoif bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah is the that goes into the general klal called Vasisa Yoshev Atoif. Now, I don't think it'll be over the asay of doing the Yoshev Atoif, but he will be going against this pasuk. You want to know, will it be a bittul asay? The asay, let's say you should do a Yoshev Atoif. That's a very interesting question. So let's look into. I want to show you a case. We'll see. First of all, we'll see this Gemara inside of bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah. Let's look inside. I'll tell you where exactly to see it inside, just to see it inside, to know.
I mean, Steve's pointed out, it's self-contradictory to say it's lifnim mishur sadin and it's a law. That's self-contradictory.
Right. That your question? So this is a beautiful question. But the question will rise, right? Okay, you want to know if lifnim mishur sadin, then it's extra. How could you force someone to do extra? So this is a beautiful idea what you're asking. And on this, I want to bring out, this is the same idea that you were bringing out also, that how could you force him? Let's look up the Gemara first. I want to show you inside the idea of bar mitzvah. let's look at where the Gemara is.
Can you have a chiyuv?
Can you have a chiyuv of
Can
Nimish
Asadim be a chiyuv?
And the question is, could Bezdin force
Or by
you?
definition, it can't be a chiyuv. It has to be voluntary.
Oh, right. The problem's going to be because there are certain Gemaras that come in, and I'll show you a few interesting Gemaras. We could even look at them, and then you'll tell me what you think. Let's look at one Gemara. We'll take one at a time here.
Another philosophical concept, which is that we understand that it's not an all or nothing. Every good deed,
Here, let's look at number 7.
so to speak.
Let's look at number 7. Interesting case here. Number 7 was a Gemara in Bava Metzia here.
Your second sheet?
Here, let me look at your new sheet. Here's number 7, here. So the Gemara says here, number 7, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi had a ka'azul ba'orcha. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi was going on the road. Paga be'ahu gavra. So he met a person. Have a dari pischa, the oifi. So he was, he was, I think, chopping wood. He had wood there. And oisvinu v'ka mitbach. So I think he wanted to load up the wood. So he told Rabbi Shmuel, Amar lei, Dolly, I have a lot of wood here. Dolly means to load it up. Help me load up the wood. By the way, you see from here that the rule of loading up, Prika and Te'ina, it's not only by animals, but you have to even help your friend load up his packages on his back. Okay, side point. So what happened? Amar lei, kama shavin. How much is all this wood you got there? How much is it all worth? You want me to help you load it up? You know, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi was a great Amayra, if not a Tana. And it wasn't by his dignity to do such a thing of loading up wood. So he said, how much is the whole thing worth? Amarle palga de zuze, a half a zuz. So he said, okay, here, Yovle palga zuze. Here's a half a zuz. Okay, I'm finished. Okay, this is afkara, and he said, this wood is not yours. I'm buying it, and I'm mafkar the wood. It's not your wood anymore. I don't have any more mitzvah because it's not yours. I don't have to help you load up your wood. So what happened? So the guy...
Keep doing it to every next one.
Oh, so there you go. So what did the guy do? He was a smart aleck. Hadar Zacharbu. So he quickly ran and tried to pick it up to be Zaycha in the wood. Hadar Yaev lei paga de zuze. So Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi took another half a zuz out of his pocket. How much you worth? Half a zuz? I'll give it to you. And therefore I don't have any more fee of a prikotina. Now Mr. Snatch is feeling bad for Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. It's not right. So Chazia, so Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, he paid him off and he was mafgrid. Chazia, then he saw the havi kaboy lemeadar lemizke behu. He saw he was making a lunge to grab the wood again to try it. He's making more money than the whole thing is worth. So I'm making it hefker to the whole world except the loy hefker. You are not included in the hefker. It's a limited hefker, and therefore the man, you stop in your tracks. You can't touch it. It's hefker, but not for you. So the Gemara goes into the whole thing. Could you do such a thing? Could you do a limited hefker? So machlekes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, could you do a limited hefker? The Gemara says, so the Gemara says, you're right. It's an argument, Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, can I do a limited hefker? And then the Gemara says, you're right. What he meant to say, the guy didn't know. The guy was obviously one of the lower group of fellows in the world, and therefore, since he was trying to do all this, he didn't know the halacha. So he thought, well, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi is saying it's a limited hefker. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi must know what he's talking about. Okay, it's a limited hefker. I'm not going to touch it. Really, the machlekes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, and Beis Hillel says it's not a good hefker. You can't make a limited hefker. Beis Hillel says
probably the law.
Hefker means hefker. Hefker means it's open for everyone. You can't do it not for him. But the guy wasn't such a lamdan, this fellow. So the fellow, he believed Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. Oh, okay. You said these lamdish words. It sounds like you know what you're talking about. Okay, I won't touch the wood anymore. You're right. It's hefker for everyone except for me. So you got him. So the Gemara asked the question, why did Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi do such a thing? Why was he paying him a half a zuz? Let's say the first time. Why did he pay him a half a zuz? For Reb Shmuel, Reb Yaisi, he was a zaken. He was an old person. He was a great person. He was a zaken full of zeh shakana chokhmah. He had a lot of chokhmah, wisdom in him.
Beneath his dignity.
It was beneath his dignity, and anyone beneath his dignity is potter from doing prika, te'ina, or hashavas aveda. If you see someone, right, let's say for hashavas aveda, if you see, let's say the gadol, let's say someone very, very big, Shlomo Miller or someone walking down the street, and he sees a basketball on the floor, and the basketball says, the name, Maishi Schwartz, if found, please return. It's in the street. If found, please return in big black letters. What should the Rosh Kollel do? Should he pick it up? It's in the street. It's going to who knows what. Who knows whatever. Anyone will ever get it before it gets...
But he read it, though. He read the words, though.
He read the words.
Well, once he read it, I think it's...
What does reading do?
But he's obligated. I mean, now he knows something.
He knows, but he's potter. He's potter because, it says in the pasuk, v'his alamta. It says if you will see something in the street. So the Gemara says v'his alamta, and you will turn away your eyes, and you will hide your eyes, make believe you don't see it. So then you shouldn't hide your eyes. But the Gemara darshans, the Gemara learns out v'his alamta. Sometimes you're allowed to hide your eyes. What's the case? Zaken bein al tikvaydai. If it's a zaken and he's not by his kavod. If he's a zaken, it's not for his own respect to do such a thing, then you don't have to pick it up.
Would he have an obligation to inform the other guy?
So maybe it would be good. You should tell someone else.
Going a little bit above the letter, the Torah, when that would be an extra chesed for him to do. Put his honor aside to do a mitzvah for someone else.
So it is. It is going beyond the letter of the law to help out and return it afal pikein, even still. So the question is, should you do that? But should you do that? So that's a question you have to think about. But he says, it's not Reb Shlomo Miller, so you should pick up the basketball, you're saying?
What if no one's looking?
He should. But it's not on his respect. That's not on his level.
But
that's not kavod. Self-respect,
but is it? But
or kavod Torah, respect of Torah.
He's thinking about himself. But what about the guy who lost his ball, who it might be very important? It might be more
very important.
It might be that ball might be more important to that person than so he lowers himself a bit for somebody else. I mean,
he is, but it's not himself. But it's not. But it's not. He's lower. It's not himself that he's concerned about. But it's the honor of Torah. The honor of Torah is beautiful, right?
Yeah,
You want to uphold the honor of the Torah. It's not a personal thing.
Yeah, okay.
Is it a personal thing if no one else sees?
Even if that would be a good question.
Yeah.
That we would have to deal with. We have to think about a little bit. We have to work on that. What would you say? What?
David Amelech dancing in the streets.
I thought you were like 4 and 5 and 9.
Oh, there people saw.
Yeah.
Now there was the kavod HaTorah. You're right, but there David HaMelech felt. Right, his question is, how was David able to dance? And he was able to he was with all his koyach. He was mecharker. He was dancing with all his might. So he's asking a good question. How could he do that? Kavod HaTorah. He was the whole Torah. He wrote Tehillim. The answer to that is, but he was dancing itself for the Torah, and therefore this was in a way he was showing respect for the Torah. So he felt that was the biggest kavod that he could show, is dance with all his energy for the Torah.
So is it?
I hear it. It's a very interesting question you bring up. Right. But over there, you're right. Even though he seemed, Michal was looking out the window, she thought he was degrading himself. So after you hear this is a very, very interesting point. He's asking, so how could David HaMelech dance? And he degraded himself. Michal thought it was in the eyes of people. So what's the difference between that and the Rosh Kollel taking a basketball? He should also, you mean to say that he should also degrade himself and pick up the basketball for the Torah?
It's in that way.
It's processing. So that's the question. But what the idea is, right? You have to make a differentiation. That over there, here, it's a side thing. There, the Torah was there, the Ark was there. The Ark was there, so David was dancing in front of the Ark. That was Kavod HaTorah, to dance and put all your energy, even if it looks like it's a little bit crazy.
His own mini Simchat Torah right there on the spot.
So he felt it was his due and his obligation to dance his utmost in front of the Torah. That is Kavod HaTorah. But in the case of the basketball and the Rosh Kollel, there you have to separate there. There it's a two-step process. It's to pick up the ball, to do Hashavas Aveda. So you could say, number one, you would have to think about if people would know, there would not be the Kavod HaTorah. There the Kavod HaTorah would be disgraced. If people don't know the whole idea of why he's returning it, that would be number one. And it's a two-step process. It's the returning. I hear what you're saying. If everyone would know, the question would be, if let's say everyone would know that.
So the Rosh Kollel is coming home and he sees somebody at the side of the road and his car needs a boost. You shouldn't give him a boost because it's beneath his dignity. I'm just asking.
No. So it could be in that case would be different. Every case you'd have to measure it out. If the guy is stranded and no one's stopping, let's say if people would be stopping, it's like down the highway going to the mountains, that people stop like water, then the Rosh Kollel should not stop. Because some will stop in a minute later. But you're right, let's say he's stranded and it could be 20 minutes, it could be an hour, you don't know who's going to stop. Then you have to weigh out each case. Then it could be he should have to stop.
But anyway, Rabbi Shimon.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Why was Michal punished? For the way she said it or the fact that she said it?
No, the fact that she said it. The fact that she felt, and she came to David with a taina, and she said, you disgrace yourself. So she shouldn't have told David where David was really right. David HaMelech made the calculation, and he...
Okay, so we're saying David was right in that instance.
Yeah, right. So it's a beautiful question that he's asking, and you'd have to be machalik that maybe they don't realize it's Kavod HaTorah, that he's returning it. So the Kavod HaTorah is being disgraced on one hand, and the Kavod HaTorah is being upheld on the other hand, but no one realizes it. But on the other hand, well, you have to know. Maybe it would depend if everyone knew. But in this case... Right, but in David's case, everyone knew it was for Kavod HaTorah, and therefore that was they were upholding Kavod HaTorah. But on this, so the Gemara basically is asking, why is Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, so the same thing as with Prika, helping unload and load. Why did Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, why did he pay him money? He was a Zaken Ben Fichvayda, he was an old, great man. And the Gemara answers, he was Zaken Ben Fichvayda. So what do you see from here? Zaken Ben Fichvayda is chayiv to go beyond the letter of the law. He paid money. So at least number one, right? He did extra,
and that's not beneath his dignity. The fact that he paid money is not beneath his dignity. So
the question would be: now we have a lot of things. Well, maybe we'll have to tie it up a different time. But the question is: let's say he wanted to go to L'fnei Mishras Din. Should he help him? It seems from the Gemara he shouldn't help him. The L'fnei Mishras Din is not to help him load up the stones, sticks, whatever they were. The L'fnei Mishras Din is to pay money. That's what paying money. Because there you get around. That's what L'fnei Mishras Din. You get around. You're helping him out. You're doing L'fnei Mishras Din. On the other hand, you're not lowering your dignity. So this is a machlokes, the rush against a different rishon. Is that the best eitzah? That would be L'fnei Mishras Din. It wouldn't be L'fnei Mishras Din to help him load the wood. That's what the rush seems to say, that's the chiyuv. Okay, we just to start on the whole idea, but L'fnei Mishras Din.